I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Alright, hi, I'm Ashton Terrell, and I'm from the junior class.
And I'm Brysen Brown. I'm from class of 2020 senior class.
And we're going to discuss the GI Bill and Red Lining explicitly in Nashville. And we decided to do this topic and make a video about it because of the relevance to MLK. And his purpose was to gain access and equality for African Americans, but through a peaceful way. And that's why we decided that this video would be the best way to explain that.
So what we'll be talking about is one of the many GI bills that have been passed in the United States. This one particularly was in 1944 called the Servicemen's Readjustment Act. And what this did is for white people who were veterans, when they came back to the United States, they were able to get low-cost mortgages and loans with not having to pay very much interest on them. And what ended up happening is, in many cases, black veterans were unable to get these benefits, causing a lasting housing crisis for them.
And those who were would usually be subjugated by the southern colleges or maybe some northern colleges too. And it was explicitly harder for women because most colleges already didn't accept women in some degrees. And so black women usually weren't able to go and get these loans and get these colleges for their service, as well as black men.
Right. And this was huge when it came to housing. So, for example, in Nashville, many areas were redlined, which is a practice that was common in the United States and Canada and still exists to this day, where banks would take a red marker and mark it around where the majority black neighborhoods, and then would not allow them to get loans and mortgages because of this.
And the African Americans in that time period couldn't go to the government because the government couldn't force banks to give out loans, which only worsened the action.
Right. So in Nashville, for example, most areas were redlined. In fact, the map that we'll show, you can see the areas where the red's been drawn around it. And this has a lasting legacy. If you look at these areas today, the majority of the people there whose mothers, fathers, grandparents lived there and were unable to get out of there are still there. So it's a lasting legacy.
Yeah. Two areas that I personally know about are Antioch, the area that I live in now, and some parts of Franklin, the area my father was raised. And I can see the setbacks compared to Belmead and areas like those, and I can see the difference between them and the long-lasting evidence of redlining.
For example, one thing I observed in East Nashville is in areas where it's starting to be gentrified, you'll see one area on one side of the street that is well-developed housing units, and then on the other side of the street where it's been redlined, people do not have as nice equipment, housing, and supplies and infrastructure. So one of the many things that MLK did fight against was these practices of redlining. And while he was unsuccessful in that regard, he made great strides. And it's our duty as citizens of the United States to continue his legacy, especially with this poignant time.
So one of the longest lasting legacies is the poor communities which redlining stemmed from. As you can see in businesses, they're not as big or well funded. Road systems aren't as perfectly made as what they would be in nicer, wider areas. And one of the biggest questions now that we get is what should be the consequence, or what should we do about the redlining situation now in the GI Bill now? There's no perfect way to fix this problem, but the only way that we believe that can fix this problem is just not letting stuff like this continue now and recognizing that this is the problem in our community. And so the final question that we leave you with is, if you had to endure all of these trials in order to be seen as an equal human, wouldn't you want to change now?